We're going to look at some of the symptoms for kids, and this is pretty much the same as for adults. A couple of small changes. We're looking at dry cough, fever, chills, the runny nose, difficulty breathing. Some of the more or less common ones are loss of smell and taste, diarrhea, nausea, malaise, and malaise is that general ill feeling of health. Could be disorientation. That's really hard for a young child to try to explain what they're feeling. Exhaustion, when they just want to be down all day long. And then headaches. Again, headaches is another difficult symptom that young kids have to try to share with their parents. Now, the good thing is this is the group of the population that has the least problems, of at least percentage chance of having significant problems with it. From the 0 to 9 years old, they have been saying no fatalities. There is some question if a child did die 3 days ago, but they're still not sure if it was due to COVID-19 or if it was due to something else. But anyway, it's a very, very slow, a very low percentage, and we're very thankful for that. Again, any child that passes is a real tragedy, but compared to the normal flu, the odds are much, much better. So that's 0 to 9, and then in the adolescent years, again, very, very low chance of death, which is really good, but there's also some things we need to be concerned about. Let's go back to some of the common precautions. Of course, clean hands, soap and water is the best. And then after that, I like the nano silver gel. It's like kind of like a alcohol base, but there's no alcohol. It has silver. Silver is very, very good for killing bacteria and viruses. And then thirdly, the alcohol-based hand sanitizers. I'm sure every home has those right now. Like any precautions for the adults as well, avoid people who are sick. Clean and disinfect high-touch surfaces often. If you want to check out I have a short video on YouTube about the deadliest places, places in your house that have the greatest amount of germs, and the kitchen is on the top of that list, several different things. So encourage you to take a look at that. Laundry washable plush toys based on the manufacturer's recommendations. If they do not recommend washing, then I would encourage you to take that toy away from the child, as difficult as what that might be, and then put it away for 30 days or so. We know that the viruses only last a certain period of time, and it would probably be fine to go back within about a week, but just on the safe side. So put it away for 30 days. Plus, when you bring that toy out again, the child is usually, it looks like a new toy to them. So that's something you might want to consider. You can launder sick people's clothes along with the non-sick kids' clothes. The detergent will kill it. That's just fine. A lot of people allow their kids to sleep with their pets, especially cats and dogs. I really do not recommend that. Disease can be transmitted, not just the COVID-19, but many other diseases. I say especially the head of the bed. If they're on the floor, that's one thing, but try to keep them off the bed. Okay. Now, this is a real big one. How do you keep your kids from touching their face? Okay. We know that as adults, we touch our face anywhere from between 15 and 20 times a minute, depending upon the studies that have been done. So how do you keep your kids from doing that? Very, very difficult. A lot of them, you're not going to, but there's some things you might want to consider. Positive reinforcement, training to touch something else instead of the face. And older children, of course, or in adolescents, helping to explain to them why it's very important to do that, what viruses are, and how they can work at keeping that the contagious viruses away from them. So it's a good sanitary habits to do, not just now, for the rest of their life. And that's one of the things I hope that happens from this, that people are going to continue to wash their hands and using good hygiene practices. Just that alone will help cut down on the transmission in flus and other viruses that will be coming our way. If you have any other great ways of keeping your kids from touching their face, or actually also washing their hands, please let me know. We'll get that put up someplace. Okay. Talking about diet, similar to adults, clean, and clean we mean by basically good healthy food that does not include drive-throughs. Um, Again, what the American diet is not considered to be a clean diet. So anti-inflammation diet, that means we want to keep sugar to an absolute low. We want to keep the wheat flour as low as possible. And those are two of the big inflammatories as far as the diet goes. And they're also, foods are inundated with those two products. Okay. Not to say that you can't go through a drive-through every once in a while, but it should be very, very minimal, especially when we have these outbreaks that we need to stay as healthy as possible. And the latest stats from the Centers for Disease Control is that 20% of our kids are overweight. Actually, not just overweight, but they're considered obese. So this could be a great time to start that process of cutting sugar out of the family diet or keeping it way, way down. There's some good sugar alternatives that you might want to look into. Reduce toxic exposures. One of the problems with kids and toxins is that they're so sensitive. And so that there's toxins in many different aspects, in many different things. Besides, we all hear about the PVA, and that is it's a huge one as an endocrine disruptor, both to kids as well as adults. But again, just trying to keep that family, the house, as clean as possible, both as far as food goes, keeping toxins reduced, and then the sufficient nutrients. So many kids do not have a balanced diet, and the response I oftentimes get from moms is, "Well, they won't eat." I understand that, but we have to somehow get a good variety of nutrition. And if we can't do that, you might want to really consider a multiple vitamin designed for children. And they are out there. You're not going to find those at the box store because they're not going to be of the quality that you want. We want some recent studies in the last number of years have shown that only about 28% of the nutrition that you buy in the big box stores or in discount stores actually have in them what the label says should be in there. So really recommend you to get at a good health food store or get professional brands or pharmaceutical grade. And then 50% of the body weight in ounces of water for kids, just like it is for adults. Make it fun. If they don't like to drink water, then get some special bottle that they would really like. I encourage you to take them with you so they can pick a bottle or a hiking bottle, whatever it might be, that they will drink. And get them to drink early in the morning, from just shortly after they get up. So most of the water is consumed by supper time. Otherwise, they can be getting up a lot more often than what we would like. Supplements for kids. Okay. Again, kids are on the lower risk category, and so we just want to supplement some basic ones. Vitamin C, and that can be done either in a tablet form or in a powder form. Powder vitamin C, or vitamin C, is called ascorbic acid. And sometimes you can get some good tasting vitamin C's. I know I use a couple of them for kids, and it tastes like, it actually tastes very good. You mix up in the water, and they just drink it throughout the day. It's a good slow release of vitamin C into their diet. With vitamin C being water soluble, if they take too much of it at once, they're going to urinate it away. So we want a little bit more of a slower release throughout the day with them. And if they enjoy drinking it, that's even icing on top of the cake. Vitamin D3, very, very important. Most people have been hearing about this, especially with the COVID and regular flus. This comes in a drop form, which works out very nice for kids, or it can be in tablet form. But vitamin D is also considered the sunshine vitamin. If you live in the southern climates where there's a lot of sun, your child might be getting enough vitamin D or might not. Without a blood test, it's really hard to tell. So at this point in time, I really encourage you to supplement with vitamin D. Elderberry is another one that is very popular and works well for kids. It's an antiviral. There has been some discussion lately as far as creating a cytokine storm. And a cytokine storm, again, is a process in which inflammation in the body takes over. And instead of that engine running at 20 miles an hour, it's running at about 150 miles an hour. The research, though, on elderberry really does not support that. There was one study that said it increases the reaction about a third to 3 times the normal, whereas a true cytokine storm, the ones that people are in hospitals and intensive care, that's about 6,000 times the rate. So elderberry would be fine, works very good for flus, and I also recommend that for the COVID-19. Zinc. Zinc has been known as antiviral for many years. One other factor is I have noted here, it also helps children with stunted growth. So there's a couple of studies that were run a couple of years ago or published a couple of years ago showing that zinc helps kids grow taller. Okay? The other thing that is very interesting is that they're finding out this medication, hydroxychloroquine, is working for a lot of people in the advanced stages of COVID-19. One of the things that medication does is allow zinc to become much more active. So some of the thinking is it's allowing zinc to get into the cell, killing off the bacteria at a much higher rate. Multiple vitamins. Again, I mentioned this a little bit ago. If you have a child that does not like to eat vegetables and fruits, or eats a very, very limited array of food, get a good children's multiple vitamin that's appropriate for their age. And no gummies for kids, no gummies for adolescents, and no gummies for adults either, okay? You're defeating the purpose if you're eating gummies, if you're taking gummies for a vitamin. Okay? The sulforaphane, this is part of the cruciferous vegetables, the broccoli, cauliflower, kale. Those are some of the major ones. And what it does is it upregulates the system so it decreases the virus reproduction. And I was thinking about this as I was thinking about kids. A lot of kids don't like to eat their vegetables, especially cauliflower and broccoli. But they do make greens powder. Greens powder itself does not taste that good, but moms can go ahead and put that green powder in and then also put some other good taste and maybe a little bit of stevia or some other kind of sweetener, a good sweetener, erythritol or something like that, to increase the acceptance of this for a child. And this be a great way of getting this the cruciferous vegetables in. If you have kids that like to eat broccoli and cauliflower, great, go for it. Probiotics, very important for kids. Some kids need to take them all the time, and some kids just would do better if we have an outbreak like we do right now. Many different kinds of probiotics. I do recommend a multi-strain that would cover both the upper and the lower intestine. Most of the probiotics need to be refrigerated after they're opened, so that's something else to consider. Nano silver, this I mentioned this when we talked about the hand gel. It also comes in liquid form and works quite well for colds and flus. Your child is not going to turn silver. This is a nanoparticles. The other kind of silver is more of a colloidal silver. The nanoparticles attach to red blood cells, which travel throughout the body and then it becomes excreted at the end of 90 to 120 days. Now, there are some kids that have special situations. There's specialized herbs, but we have to be very careful with those because there can be some negative consequences with those. So I don't just put those in as part of our normal protocol because if parents would use them on their children, there could be some side effects. But there are probably 6, 7 others that can be used depending upon the situation. Adequate sleep. Again, with kids being home, if you have teenagers, they probably want to get a lot more sleep anyway, just the way their body clocks run at this point. They say that in high school, school should start about 10 o'clock in the morning and go to about 5 o'clock at night. You and I both know that's not going to happen, but getting more sleep is good. Keeping especially older kids and adolescents on a routine is very good as well. The younger kids, just more naps longer naps, whatever you can do to get that sleep. We heal so much when we sleep. Exercise, unlike an adult, something we have to prod the kids. Great time to play outside. You got to be a little careful though. If you have your own yard, that's one thing. If you live in an apartment or someplace and you can all go down to the neighborhood park, again, probably be careful at this point because you're not going to be wiping everything down. But at least get outside, do some walks, maybe bike rides if you can. Get out in nature, both for kids and adults. Walking in green spaces helps stress out so very much. Spiritual connection for adults, very important. Kids also, so you need to relate to them in ways in which they can understand. Family time. I mentioned earlier, we had this supermoon coming out tonight. Great time to get out. If we become creative, you can probably think of something pretty much every day that you can do. Think of it as memory maker times with your kids. So often that with time pressures, especially if both parents work, it's maybe hard to find time for these special things. Now, many families, at least one, if not both, parents might be home. Try to get creative, find those opportunities. You'd be surprised, your kids can look back and say, you know, Mama or Dad, I remember when you were home and we did this, and this. I know I'm amazed when we had 4 kids in 5 years, and when they were growing up, we did things with them. And sometimes I didn't think that they were that significant, and they were significant. So don't look at it in your perspective, realize how they're going to perceive this and the memories that you're going to make with them for down the road. Okay. Connecting with other family members or students if they're old enough to go to school. Phone, of course, you want to monitor that. You actually want to monitor the phone. You want to monitor the email, etc. But we have email, we have video meetings. It'd be a fun thing to do as a family. Call another family member up and surprise them. Letters are a forgotten thing. This could be a great time. It can also help the kids with their writing skills. And then take a picture, sending a note with that. There's so many creative ways. We have a culture now that we can connect with people so much more than if this would have happened 20, 25 years ago. Okay. Now, a real concern that I have is the amount of screen time your child has. Okay. I've treated many kids for ADHD and the autism spectrum disorders, and this is a crucial thing. It's real easy for parents to let the screen be the babysitter. The statistics are not good for kids regarding screen time. So we really want to monitor that. And again, screen time would be phone, computer, TV, tablet, whatever they are, okay? The brain works differently when they're on the computer. I'm all for computer skills, but having too much at too early of an age can create some very significant consequences. So really consider how much time they are on them. Okay. Now, signs of childhood stresses, excessive worry, sadness, unhealthy eating or sleeping habits, and difficulty or attention with concentrating. Watch out for these because a lot of times kids are not going to come to you and say, Mom or Dad, you know, I'm worrying. Okay, they're going to present it in other ways. So keep your eyes open for that. And then I'm also going to bring up the genetic. We've been talking about this with adults as well. We thought that, or the scientists thought that we had hundreds of thousands of genes. That's what made us unique from the other animals. Well, what we find is we have just about the same amount of genes. In fact, there are some plants that have more genes than what we do. 91% of all human genetic code is identical. Okay, it's that 9% that makes you different than your spouse, than your neighbor, than any other person that you see. And we have variations within these genes called SNPs. Your genes and SNPs are unchangeable for your entire life. Genetic testing is coming into a real forefront right now. That we know that as we can test these genes, it started out with 23andMe and Ancestry, and they got all the media attention. Tell you the truth, we really don't care where people come from. What we care about is what's going on health-wise in them. And looking at the genetic code of kids, we can see what potential diseases they might have down the road, but more importantly, working. For example, vitamin D. Vitamin D is a huge system within the body. We can look at what genes are not working the way they're supposed to and what can be done to upregulate that so the body can produce enough vitamin D by themselves. Or you can have a magnesium deficit that you're going to have that way you're going to be that way for the rest of your life. So one of the things that a child would need to do is they're going to need to take more magnesium to keep these other systems working properly for the rest of their life. Okay, this is so important, and you can be hearing so much more about it. We're looking at approximately 6,000 variations of these genes called SNPs, and like I say, it's the new generation of testing is available. We take the genetic code and we're slicing and dicing it about 12 to 16 different ways, looking at, again, possibilities of certain diseases showing up, but more importantly, how to avoid those. Okay, there's a lot of debate right now and discussion on how much of these genes are a reason why some people are dying and other people are not dying with COVID-19. So they're starting to put together some algorithms. Algorithm is a series of equations taking all these different possibilities, something that we could not do ourselves, using artificial intelligence to see what kind of correlations. So I'm excited that we're going to most likely find that certain people have more susceptibility to certain kind of viruses, certain kind of bacteria, and so it'll be easier to identify them. But more importantly, when things like this come, they can be taking certain things to make their bodies more resistive. In the area of epigenetics is taking that the genes that we have and being able to affect them in a more positive way. The next slide is going to show you two mice. They're called agouti mice. They are bred as identical to one another. And one of the common experiments they would do is they would take these two mice. The one on the left, the larger one with the yellow fur, they are designed to have high cholesterol, to be overweight. So they'll separate them at birth. The one on the left, they'll just put in a regular lab situation. The one on the right, they will put them in a cage, put an exercise wheel, give them the kind of nutrition that little mice need. They'll turn the light out at night to represent darkness, and then these would be the epigenetic factors: your stress level, the nutrition, exercise, etc. When they get adult size, which these two are, the one on the right, of course, smaller brown fur. He does not have a history. He does not have high cholesterol. He's not overweight because through the epigenetics, that mouse has turned certain genes on and certain genes off. So this is the beauty about it all, that we can now go in and find out what is going on in a child or an adult, and then give them recommendations that they would do to turn these genes on or off, depending if they're good genes or they're bad genes. Not really bad genes, but they're just genetic errors, and we all have them. We all have many, many of them. So you'll be hearing more about this. We're going to be focusing on both kids and adults, because parents can understand what's going on with their child at a young age, hopefully we can avoid a lot of these other issues down the road. It's just like if your parents have diabetes, they used to say, well, you're probably going to get diabetes too. Now we know that's totally wrong. Through epigenetics, through your diet, through exercise, etc., you can make it so that you do not have diabetes. Okay, it takes work, but you can do it, and that's the exciting part. Okay, going forward. Okay, this is going to come to an end. I'm encouraged by looking at the numbers. We see that the death rate is not nearly as high as that they had estimated. I look at some states, in fact, living in Montana, and just yesterday, they moved the projected death toll from 250 or so and down to about 22. So huge change. I hope that that will happen to other states as well, so we can get back to our regular life. Okay, times like this, like these, we need to understand the importance of optimal health. That's where our focus is. That's what I hope your focus is going to be also. Unfortunately, most parents will revert to behaving as they did before. Okay, we're going to go back to most families will eat half their meals out in fast food places. And that is a great concern. If kids don't get the nutrition they need, they are not going to be able to withstand these viruses and bacteria. Right, this particular one is affecting adults, the older adult population much more. And one of the reasons for that is they believe that it has to do with melatonin. Melatonin, many people know about it as a sleep aid, but melatonin is also an antioxidant, and it's showing that kids have a large supply of it. Once we hit the 40 to 50 year age group, that supply goes down significantly. In fact, in adults, we're having them supplement with melatonin. Kids have a very good amount of it. And so this is why one of the reasons that they're believing that the kids are being spared with this. The other thing is we know that we're going to have more novel viruses or resurgence of other bacteria, other viruses, whatever it might be. We want our children's bodies to be strong. We want that immune system to be so strong that when viruses or bacteria hit, it can withstand it. Okay, we don't want any child to be part of a statistic. Okay, and so encourage you to decide to give your child all the tools they need to live optimally. And I am offering for the next 6 weeks, a specialized immune system consultation. These are being limited to 20 minutes. So we're significantly discounting the rates to $75 just so we can help families out with this. And we can also use that time for an entire family. Okay? Again, we're only going to focus on the immune system because that's what the important thing is right now. We need to get ready so as soon as this COVID is over, get back into normal, healthy lifestyle. And we'll be talking more about that as the weeks go by. Again, I'm Dr. Gary Petro. My clinic is Good Medicine Functional Health. We are in Whitefish, Montana, but we work with people across the world. We've been doing telemedicine for probably the last 5 or 6 years. It's an exciting time. I'm loving to see we're almost peaking at this. In some states, they have peaked on the downward trend. Again, keep your kids as healthy as they can. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Now, if there's any questions, I'll be glad to take those at this time. Get into the right screen. Okay, I have one here from Jane. Says my kids seem to have a runny nose all the time, especially in the winter, even though I give them vitamins. Okay. Well, there's many reasons for runny noses. Stress is a particular issue with kids, and a multiple vitamin will work some of the time, but there's also underlying reasons with the gut, underlying reasons with brain function, that your child could be having this immune system. The body works as a whole, the brain controls it all. So if you've been doing a bunch of different things and it's not making a difference, I encourage you to have some testing done with your child, organic acids, maybe some blood work to see if there's an underlying issue for that. We find that any condition that becomes unresolved, there's an underlying issue. Sometimes it takes time to get down to that root issue, but once it's controlled, or once we find out what it is, it's much easier to address it.